Jurassic Park 3 is directed by Joe Johnston and stars Sam Neill, Thea Leone, and William H. Macy. And this time around, Alan Grant is having a tough time in his life. He's not with Ellie Sattler anymore. His dig site is getting little funding. And when a rich couple comes to him to ask him to be their guide over Isla Sorna for their wedding anniversary, he agrees to fly over the island, but not land on it, for money to fund his dig site. But when the truth comes out that they're actually trying to look for their lost son, they get lost on the island when they got attacked by the Spinosaurus, which is the new big bad dinosaur of the film, and now have to survive the island full of dinosaurs, try to find their son, and make their way off. Now, this film was a movie that I was very obsessed with as a kid. This was probably the most rewatched Jurassic Park film, in my opinion. I came back to this film the most as a kid. I think it's mainly because of Spinosaurus and the return of Alan Grant. I loved that character and I loved seeing him back. I was more into him than Ian Malcolm. And the Spinosaurus to me was a much cooler dinosaur as a kid than the T-Rex. I think it's because it had a spine. But over the years, I have grown to become more critical of the film. Though nostalgia still kind of blinds me to still enjoy the movie at times. So I rewatched it with a clear mind. And overall, the film is good. It's okay. I had fun. It's another adventure into the Jurassic Park universe. And you could tell that this franchise is going for a more serialized aspect of way of making their movies. Like the Lost World does feel like a proper continuation, but here I think they're trying to be a little bit more serialized, like a Western serial or the Indiana Jones movies. But in my opinion, I think they could just stuck with probably the first two movies in terms of connecting the stories. One idea that the filmmakers had was having Alan Grant stuck on the island, and not reluctantly. He wants to go there himself. He got himself back there on purpose to study the animals. That would have been interesting. And parts of that idea still sprinkle its way around this movie with the raptors and how Alan Grant is studying raptor behavior. Whenever they are chased by the new raptors in the movie, they seem to act a little bit more like a pack. You can see the way they interact, how they hunt. You get a lot more character with these raptors, and you understand this pack a whole lot more than the packs we've seen in the first two movies. They felt like their own characters here, and that aspect of the film was probably the most interesting to me. How the raptors behave, and what they're doing, and why they're hunting these characters. The actors do a good job for the most part. Thea Leone is awful in the movie. She just yells a whole bunch and was very uninteresting. William H. Macy was alright for what he's given. He's not given that much to do, but he overall does a fine job. The actor who plays Billy in the movie did also serviceable. It's mostly Alan Grant that carries the movie, Sam Neill. His character was the most interesting and the most entertaining, and I'm glad he's back as the main character here, because without him, this movie would have just been forgettable, in my opinion. The special effects overall are good, but I think these effects aged a little bit worse than the first two movies, mostly because of the usage of its animatronics. They used a lot of wide shots for animatronics as well here instead of close-ups. I mean, they still do close-ups of animatronics, but they also use close-ups of CGI dinosaurs too, and wide shots of CGI dinosaurs, and it doesn't mix as well, and you can notice some of the flaws in both the animatronics and the CGI. They stand out a little bit more. They don't feel as real. So that aspect of realism is a little bit diminished here. And I think the first two films did a lot better job incorporating both CGI and visual effects together than this movie. I think the usage of wide shots and close-ups were very important for those first two movies. In this film, it did not understand why the visual effects worked. They just thought of some cool shots and the way to use it. Though there are some still pretty impressive animatronic effects and puppeteering going on still. And some of the special effects and CGI still look overall pretty good. But I think this is one of Stan Winston's weaker works. The music by Don Davis is pretty good in my opinion. Though there's no actual theme for this movie. It's just the same Jurassic Park themes that we've heard before. Some of the newer themes, like the Kirby's, worked very well and were still memorable to me. But overall, I think this is a weaker soundtrack than both The Lost World and the first film, obviously. The first film probably still has the best soundtrack. The story and pacing is very quick, and that is due to the film being an hour and a half long. The first two are like over 2 hours. This is probably and still going to be the shortest movie in the entire franchise. It goes by quick, and that's why the pacing felt very rushed and fast paced. Though it is consistent with its pacing, so nothing felt like it dragged on too much. It felt like each scene ended with just enough time and enough information, at least, for a very simple story. It knew what it wanted to be. It set out to be what it wanted to be, a simple rescue mission. But I think it sacrificed a lot of the interesting themes and aspects of the first two about man and nature and playing God and what that could mean about mankind and their greed and ambition to not just make money but to basically be God. I feel like all that interesting themes that we've seen explored throughout these films, they were unfortunately abandoned here, and it just made the entire experience feel a little bit less special. Though there is a fine family theme here that's a little bit more simple, it's there. As I said, in my opinion, everything is okay, entertaining. It is, in my opinion, nowhere near as bad as what everybody says. But I can understand why a lot of people may not like it. It is a very rushed film that explores simple ideas, but sometimes don't go anywhere with it. Some of the acting doesn't always work. Some of the decisions made aren't always the best. Some of the better aspects of the film don't always work. Everything felt like a downgrade from the first two movies. And while I can still find enjoyment in this film, and I still overall can have a good time with Jurassic Park 3, and for nostalgia's sake, I can still come back and rewatch this movie. It is nowhere near as good as the first two, and is what caused the entire franchise to basically collapse for a decade and a half until Jurassic World. And so for that reason, I'm going to give Jurassic Park 3 a B. I originally gave it a B- because all those flaws were very apparent, but over the years I've come to enjoy this movie a little bit more due to nostalgia and just pure enjoyment. So I'm just being honest with myself here. I'm just being completely honest. I thought the movie is just fun. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you guys next time.